Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. Having a mix of strong, relatively new roller coasters, Busch Gardens Tampa Bay has a very solid coaster line, featuring a classic B&M coaster, the best B&M invert in America, a solid collection of family coasters, a dive coaster, a super popular launch coaster, and a hyper RMC coaster. Busch Gardens might seem to have it all, but how good are these coasters? Find out in this countdown. Number 9. Air Grover. This kiddie coaster has a long train and a decent drop if you're in the back of the train. The helixes do a bit of meandering, which doesn't do much for me, and there are just better kiddie coasters out there. Number 8. Cobra's Curse. 2 out of 10. This spinning coaster has a lot of theming, but the theming seems to get convoluted in the actual execution, especially with the words that are said to you while you are on the ride. Since most of this coaster is a controlled spin, there's little actual spinning, though you do get to go backwards for a short bit. As much as I love family spinning coasters like Six Flags Pandemonium, I just find this coaster rather basic without too many redeeming elements, though the elevator lift is scary. Not ranked. Sand Serpent. Defunct. 3 out of 10. This was a classic Wild Mouse, but I do have a special place in my heart for the strong laterals and the nice feelings on the small drops. Nothing great, and it was inconsistent with how it gave out forces, but overall, it was an enjoyable experience that I always looked forward to. Number 7. Montu. 6 out of 10. Despite my general dislike for B&M inverts, Montu is a solid ride. It does not seem to whip me around as much as other B&M inverted coasters, has enough breaks and straightaways between the inversions, offers decent theming while being close to the ground, and has an absolutely fantastic inversion in its Immelman. The drop isn't much better than your average drop on one of these types of coaster, despite its extra height, and the vertical loop loses some of its power due to its elongated height. Others will likely rank this coaster much higher, which is fine, but this becomes about my limit for this type of coaster. Number 6. Tigris. 7 out of 10. These Sky Coaster 2 clones offer a solid ride, especially if you choose your row, as it is very seat dependent. My favorite for Tigris is the front, as you get some hang time on both the forwards and backward launches before getting to enjoy the great visuals of completing the course. Others I know prefer the back for the superior drop feeling and whips. I would suggest that you try as many different rows on Tigris as you can. However, due to the single train this coaster runs, it can be challenging to get multiple re-rides to find your row of choice. Not ranked. Defunct. Scorpion. 8 out of 10. This classic steel looping Schwarzkopf looked like a basic looping family coasters, and in many ways it was. Boy was it fun. Despite its size, Scorpion offered a bit of everything you could want on a coaster, from a forceful loop to an enjoyably forceful helix to some other elements sprinkled throughout. The curved drop and lack of solid airtime are missed elements for sure, but the style of coaster simply delivers so well that it is hard to find a large amount of fault in what Scorpion was. Number 5. Phoenix Rising. 8 out of 10. This new for 2024 family inverted coaster does a lot of things right, from loose, freeing restraints to solid pacing throughout its layout. The first drop offers a break halfway down, and that makes it so much better. The sideways airtime that you get on some of the elements is also unique and enjoyable for a family coaster, and the helix at the end is really powerful for what feels like a really long time. the station theming is a nice touch as well, as it gets one excited for the theming of this ride. As a spiritual successor to Scorpion, as well as the original Phoenix, it is an updated version for sure, but my heart just is not crazy in love with it, though it does a lot of things, if not almost everything it tries to do, very well. Number 4. Kumba. 8 out of 10. This classic B&M steel coaster has always used traditional seats. No gimmicks like stand-up or floorless trains, and honestly, it doesn't need any of that. The corkscrews, as well as the loop around the chain lift, are iconic and beautiful, and the layout through the trees adds a fantastic touch. Kumba runs glass smooth, or at least most of the time it does, so few inversions should beat you up. My largest complaints are that the chain lift only has a view of the back parking lot, and Kumba is hidden in the very back of the park. Number 3. Cheetah Hunt. 9 out of 10. Although not quite a family coaster, the launch nature of this ride easily appeals to kids and families that visit Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. The track, running through various grasslands and beside various animal exhibits, gives the true Busch Gardens experience. The wind catcher does have a 130-foot drop, which is crazy to think about, so this probably is not a family coaster. However, the launch aspect seems to mask this for most riders, as families will flock to this line, making it easily one of the longest waits at the park, even on a slower day. The ability to race through solid exhibits and scenery while getting little airtime pops and other coaster elements mixed in is truly special for a coaster. Number 2. Shiekra. 9 out of 10. Just edging out Cheetah Hunt, at least for me, Shiekra looks beautiful. And despite being a fine coaster, the hold and drop aspect just don't seem to do a whole lot in creating an actual great drop feeling, at least for me, though it is definitely still a solid drop. The turns and inversions are smooth, and the fake water splash is a pretty beautiful element. And everything about Shiekra off-ride just looks fantastic. But the second drop off of that brake run is by far the best part for me, as I'm normally thrown well out of my seat for that smaller dive. And that's the moment I think about when I want to ride Shiekra again and again. Number 1. Iron Gwazi. 10 out of 10. Built to be one of the best roller coasters in the world, I don't share a total love for Iron Gwazi. The large RMC elements are about as expected. They are nice, but not my favorite elements on an RMC hybrid coaster. The ejector airtime on this coaster is rough, and you can come off hurting with how much you are absolutely slammed into your restraints. What really hurts Iron Gwazi for me is how the beyond vertical drop just seems to be okay. Every other RMC that I've ridden has had some type of decently solid first drop, but despite its 200-foot size, Iron Gwazi just seems to be okay, even from the back row, at least for me. Iron Gwazi was closed on my most recent trip, when I was finally hoping to get extra laps on it, as I have only experienced it during very busy days where I had to wait over an hour for each of my rides, so that may partially dampen my views. My last ride on this coaster was a front row ride, which was excellent, and I am hopeful that it will climb in my overall rankings with more re-rides. But for now, it is impressive and solid, but I'm just not entirely in love with it as my favorite coaster. What are your thoughts on Busch Gardens Tampa Bay? Which coasters are your favorite? Which ones are your least favorite? Let me know, and as always, Capcom Crap.